Neymar, visibly shaken, just revealed the final promise Lionel Messi's father asked of him before he passed. And honestly, what you are about to hear will leave you absolutely speechless. With tear-soaked eyes and a cracking voice, Neymar laid bare the exact conversation he had with Jorge Messi. It was a final desperate phone call from Leo Messi's father, a call neither of them knew would be one of their last. And it was all about a secret promise. This was about a dream Lionel Messi had quietly carried for years, a dream his father needed to make absolutely sure would happen before he closed forever. I am warning you now. You need to hear this through to the very end, because we are breaking down every single detail of this story. You will hear the precise words Jorge Messi spoke during that call and exactly how Neymar responded through his own tears. We also have the heavy reaction from Luis Suarez when he heard the news, including the raw, heartbreaking message he sent directly to Messi. Do not turn away because this is going to cut straight to the bone. This is how the tragic news of his passing completely shattered the soccer world. The moment the world learned Jorge Messi had passed, the entire sport ground to a sudden halt. That is not an exaggeration. Social media was instantly flooded with tributes. Newsrooms across the globe ripped up their front pages to lead with the tragedy. Phones belonging to anyone who ever shared a locker room with Leo started ringing off the hook. After all, Jorge Messi was not just his father. He was his agent, his closest advisor, and his human shield against the world. The Youthins. This was the man who took a risk on a 13-year-old kid from Rosario, boarding a plane to Barcelona with absolutely no guarantees. No safety net, no certainty of success. Just pure, blind faith that his son was truly special. And that unwavering faith changed Leo's entire life. It changed Barcelona and rewrote world football's history. Let me ask you, do you actually know what it feels like to lose the person who built your entire life with you? He was there for every single contract signing, guiding every massive, high-stakes negotiation. He was there through the darkest nights after brutal defeats, comforting him in every moment of deep doubt. That is the pillar of support Lionel Messi just lost. And that is why what happens next is so devastating. Because the minute the news was confirmed, it did not even take Neymar 30 minutes to post a tribute online. It was a short message, but it carried an overwhelming weight of emotion that anyone reading could instantly feel. Neymar openly called Jorge Messi his second father. He was a man who always welcomed him warmly, treating him like another son within the close-knit Messi family. A man who, in Neymar's own emotional words, always made him feel like he was part of something much bigger than just a football match. But what Neymar chose not to share in that public post, the secret he held onto until later, is the one detail that completely changes everything. Behind that heartfelt Instagram tribute was a heavy story Neymar had been carrying in silence for a very long time. A late-night phone call, a deeply private conversation. It was a final request from Lionel's father that Neymar simply has not been able to shake from his mind. And do you want to know the most shocking part? Neymar confessed that he completely broke down. When he finally hung up the phone, he sat there in total silence, tears streaming down his face, completely unable to speak. This superstar has won Champions Leagues, played in intense World Cups. He shared locker rooms with the absolute greatest players on the planet. Yet, he was crying like a baby over what he just heard. And I am about to tell you exactly what Jorge Messi said. Every single word, but not quite yet. Not just yet, because you first need to understand the true depth of the bond between Neymar and Messi. Once you do, that final reveal will hit you just as hard as it hit him. So bear with me, because the context here explains absolutely everything. Let us travel back to 2013, to the wild summer transfer window that changed soccer forever. Neymar landed in Barcelona from Santos in a massive deal worth roughly 88 million euros. Back then, that fee seemed absolutely insane, but with today's wild transfer inflation, it looks like a total bargain. Here was a 21-year-old kid stepping up with immense talent, but carrying the heavy weight of the entire world, watching his every move. And right away, Lionel Messi opened the locker room doors to him as if they had been lifelong friends. Believe me, this was not some minor gesture. In a legendary Barcelona locker room packed with giant figures like Xavi, Iniesta, and Gerard Piqué, and Sergio Busquets, egos were massive. Having the best player on earth welcome you with open arms is something that shapes you forever. Neymar has repeated it 1,000 times. Messi was the first person who truly made him feel comfortable there. The teammate who sat right beside him on team flights, who actively sought him out during training, and the one who chose to pass him the ball when anyone else would have taken the shot. And that is where Jorge Messi entered the picture. Jorge was also the glue, organizing family dinners and big backyard barbecues at their home in Castel Defels. Those warm gatherings allowed superstar athletes to just unwind and be normal human beings again. And Neymar was always invited, always. Right from his very first month living in Barcelona, Jorge Messi embraced Neymar as one of his own family members. He would ask about his son, David Luca, check on how his mother was doing, and call him on every single birthday. Can you even begin to wrap your head around that? Leo Messi's father, the man who built the career of the greatest football player of all time, worrying about you as if you were one of his own. You don't ever forget something like that. And Neymar never did. Just think about what came next. The legendary MSN, Messi, Suarez, and Neymar. They became the most lethal attacking trident to ever step foot in a football pitch in the last 2 decades. 228 goals combined in a single season. The 2015 treble, the league, the cup, and the Champions League. That unforgettable final in Berlin against Juventus, where Barca completely dominated, and the three of them embraced right on the pitch just like they were brothers. Now, I want you to think about something. When three players embrace each other like that, with that kind of intense emotion, with those actual tears, it is not just about a trophy. It is because they shared something that goes beyond the sport. The grueling practices, the constant travel, training camps, wins, losses, and Champions League nights with hearts pounding at 1,000, those league nights where it feels like absolutely nothing can go wrong, and behind the scenes, having dinners over at Leo's house, where Jorge Messi would throw steaks on the grill and the three of them would laugh until the early hours of the morning. That kind of connection is not broken by a transfer. It is not broken by distance. It is not broken by anything. And that is where the very first crack appeared, because in 2017, Neymar left for Paris Saint-Germain for a record €222 million, the highest fee ever paid for a football player. It was a deal that completely shattered the market, and it also broke something deep inside the Barcelona locker room. Because the moment Neymar announced his decision to leave, Messi desperately tried to convince him to stay. According to sources close to both players, Leo called him multiple times during that final week. He told him that together they could win more Champions Leagues. He said that in Barcelona, he had everything he could ever need. Some even say Messi offered to hand him the leading role in the attack, just so he would not feel like he was living in his shadow. But Neymar said no. He insisted he needed his own project, that he had to be the main star somewhere else, and so he walked away. Do you know what hurts the most about that split? There was no anger, absolutely no hard feelings. Messi completely understood, and Neymar always maintained that the hardest decision of his life was not joining Paris Saint-Germain. It was leaving Leo behind. Just let that sink in for a second. The absolute toughest choice of Neymar's entire career had nothing to do with money, nor was it about winning trophies or dealing with the heavy media pressure. It was entirely about leaving a friend. But then came their second chance, that unexpected reunion in Paris, because in 2021, Messi left Barcelona in a truly traumatic way, crying openly in the press room, saying a sudden goodbye that nobody saw coming, and then he landed at Paris Saint-Germain. And the very first person waiting to welcome him in the locker room at the Parc des Princes was Neymar. Just like 2013, but this time it was reversed. This time it was Messi who was arriving at a brand new club, the one who desperately needed an emotional anchor because he was lost far from home, and Neymar was right there for him. Those 2 seasons together in Paris, which were admittedly inconsistent on the pitch, nobody is denying that, only strengthened a bond that was already unbreakable, their deep friendship. Because when a team crashes out of the Champions League and the locker room implodes, and when the French media launches savage attacks, when the entire atmosphere turns toxic, the ones who stand side by side are the ones who truly care about each other. And through it all, Messi and Neymar stood together. But hold on, because everything I have told you so far is just the background, the foundation you need, so that what comes next hits you with absolute crushing force. Because now we are finally getting to the moment that changes absolutely everything. To the phone call, to the final request from Messi's father, to what Neymar has recently revealed with his eyes welling up with tears. I need you to be fully prepared, because what you are about to hear is not some trashy tabloid headline. It is a deeply real story about death, unshakable friendship, and a promise that could alter the entire future of one of the biggest clubs in the United States. Jorge Messi, not long before he passed away, picked up his phone and called Neymar. This was not just some ordinary phone call. It was not to discuss business deals or contract details or anything whatsoever to do with the corporate side of modern football. It was a call from a father who knew his time was running out and who wanted to secure one crucial thing before leaving this world. And what Jorge Messi told Neymar on that call is this. Listen closely to this. Jorge told him that Messi has always considered Neymar to be one of his absolute best friends in the entire football world, that Leo had confessed this to him privately many times, and that his years playing alongside Neymar at Barcelona and Paris Saint-Germain for some of the happiest moments of his entire career, that their connection on the pitch was special, absolutely, but that their bond off the pitch was actually far more important to Leo. And right then, Jorge Messi said something that Neymar never expected to hear. He told him that Leo loved him, just straight up like that Messi loves Neymar like a brother, that there are very few people in the football universe with whom Leo can actually let his guard down, with whom he can be completely himself, without the mask of being a global superstar, without the suffocating pressure of being the greatest player in history, and that Neymar is one of those rare people. And then, with his voice cracking with emotion, according to what Neymar has since shared, Jorge Messi made his final request. He begged Neymar to go to Inter Miami, to reunite there with Leo, because Messi has a deep dream, one that has been brewing for quite some time. He wants to bring his absolute best football friends to Inter Miami, the ones who shared a dressing room and made him truly happy. And getting Neymar to Miami is easily one of the most important pillars of that entire dream. Jorge Messi told Neymar that Leo deeply wanted to play with him again, not for money, not for trophies, and definitely not for multi-million-dollar contracts, but simply because football has always felt much better for Messi when Neymar is right there playing by his side. Leo's father wanted to make absolutely sure before his time ran out that Neymar knew exactly how much he meant to his son. He needed that message delivered loud and clear. And that is right where Neymar completely broke down. Neymar later confessed that after hanging up, he just sat there for several minutes, completely frozen and unable to move. He wept. He cried harder than he had in a very long time, because he finally understood the sheer gravity of what was happening. Think about a father who knows his days are numbered, using his precious remaining time to call his son's best friend and beg him to help make his boy happy again. That is not about soccer, that is pure love. And Neymar felt it shake him to the depths of his soul. Can you even imagine getting a call like that? Your best friend's dad reaching out to tell you his son loves you like a brother, and that his final wish is to see you two playing together again. Put yourself in Neymar's shoes for a second. With everything he has already been through, all the brutal injuries, the massive transfers, and the intense ups and downs of a career that has been a total emotional roller coaster, getting a message like that is an emotional bomb. It leaves you completely shaking. And Neymar said something else. He fully intends to keep that promise and make Messi's dream a reality, even though his career has been plagued by bad injuries lately, and even though his time over in Saudi Arabia did not exactly go as planned, and even though the road to Miami is not easy physically or contractually, his goal is to go. He is determined to reunite with Leo, because that promise is not just a favor, it is a final request, and to Neymar that is sacred. Now hold on, because this story is far from over. There is still so much more to tell, and what comes next is something very few outlets have covered with the depth it deserves. Because Neymar was not the only one who received a message like that. Luis Suarez, the other piece of that legendary MSN trio who is already playing alongside Messi at Inter Miami, also spoke out after Jorge Messi passed away. What he said is a statement that shows the real character of Lionel Messi far better than any statistic ever could. Suarez shared that he deeply felt the loss of Messi's father, but he did not just offer basic condolences. It was not some generic message of obligation or a cliche put together just for the cameras. He went much deeper, talking about Messi's true character. He said Leo has such a massive heart that it is hard to believe someone at the absolute peak of global sports could still be so incredibly human, so grounded, and so genuinely caring. Then Suarez shared a crucial detail. He explained that Messi always, without exception, looks out for his family and closest friends. He is not some distant superstar locked away in an isolated bubble. Leo actually calls, checks in, shows real interest, and stays present. If anyone in his inner circle has a problem, Messi is always the first one to offer help. If someone in his family is sick, Leo moves heaven and earth to be there. And then, Suarez added something truly painful. He said Messi did not deserve to endure this kind of suffering, especially after everything Leo has given to the game of soccer, and after bringing so much joy to millions. Losing his father, his unconditional partner from day one, is a brutally cruel blow. It shows how life can be deeply unfair to the very people who deserve it least. You know what stands out as the most powerful part of Suarez's words? It was the way he described the bond between Leo and Jorge. He did not just see them as father and son, but as partners who built this entire empire together, starting from that very first flight to Barcelona when Leo was just a kid, to those multi-million-dollar contracts, the Ballon d'Or awards, and the Qatar World Cup. Jorge was right there for every step, every major decision, and every crucial milestone. He was Leo's anchor, and now that anchor is completely gone. I really want you to think about that for a second. Messi has won everything there is to win in soccer. 8 Ballon d'Ors, 1 World Cup, 4 Champions Leagues, and 10 league titles. He broke records that seemed impossible. His fortune is estimated in the hundreds of millions of dollars, but absolutely none of that shields you from the pain of losing your father. Not a single thing. And that is exactly what makes this story so devastating. It reminds us that behind the genius, behind the absolute legend, there is just a human being who hurts like any of us. But hold on, because I mentioned earlier that there was something else. A piece of the story I still have not told you yet, the emotional tribute Ronaldinho prepared for Messi and his dad, and the request Jorge also asked of him. And now it is time to reveal it. Because what many people do not realize, or maybe just forgot, is that the connection between Ronaldinho and the Messi family goes back way before Leo ever became famous. Ronaldinho joined Barcelona in 2003, back when Messi was just an academy kid trying to make his mark. It was literally Ronaldinho who took him under his wing and delivered the assist for Messi's very first official goal with Barcelona's main squad. That legendary chip against Albacete in 2005, when young Leo was only 17, started with a soft pass from Ronaldinho. The image of Messi celebrating on his back, piggybacked like a little brother hoisted up by his older sibling, remains one of the most iconic photographs in the entire history of global soccer. And Jorge Messi never forgot that kindness. He never forgot how Ronaldinho was the very first superstar to embrace his teenage son inside that intimidating first-team locker room, how Ronaldinho showed young Leo you could literally be the best on earth and still keep smiling, how that legendary Brazilian with the infectious grin proved to the young prodigy that soccer, above all else, is pure joy. Hearing about Jorge Messi's tragic passing, Ronaldinho did not just post a simple tribute on social media. Instead, he prepared a personal tribute, recording a private video directly for Messi, a clip that eventually leaked to the public, showing Ronaldinho speaking directly to Leo with a raw vulnerability we rarely see from him. He confessed that Jorge was like an uncle to him when he first arrived in Spain, totally alone and so far from his home in Porto Alegre, stating that Jorge was one of the few who made him feel at home, constantly inviting him over for meals, checking on him, treating him with a deep affection that went way beyond the standards professional relationship found inside a football club. In the video, Ronaldinho told Leo that his father could rest in peace because he had completed his absolute greatest mission in life, raising the most incredible human being Ronaldinho had ever met. Not the greatest footballer on earth, but simply the finest person. That distinction speaks volumes. But here is the secret part you probably do not know, because Jorge Messi also made one final request of Ronaldinho. Just as he had done with Neymar, Jorge spent some of his final days reaching out to the Brazilian legend to ask for a major favor. Do you know what he asked? He begged him to stay close to Leo, urging him not to let distance, retirement, or the chaos of life drift their beautiful friendship apart. He asked him to fly out to Miami to see Leo whenever possible, to be there for him, because Jorge knew that once he was gone, Leo would desperately need the people who truly loved him nearby. People who were not hanging around him for his immense wealth, or his global fame, or the flashing cameras, but for the real Leo. And sources close to both confirm Ronaldinho promised he would absolutely honor that wish, swearing he would always watch over Leo, adding that he did not even need to ask, because Messi is not just a former teammate, he is family. Do you realize the gravity of what I am telling you? This is a dying father spending his final ounces of energy making sure his son is surrounded by the right crowd. Calling up Neymar, begging him to make the move to Miami, then reaching out to Ronaldinho so they do not drift apart. He spent his final days on Earth building a protective shield of genuine love around Leo. That is not just a father, that is a real hero. A quiet, behind-the-scenes hero who never craved the spotlight, but who remains the sole reason the greatest soccer player in history became who he is today. Now think about Inter Miami, and look at what that MLS franchise actually represents when you view it through this lens. Messi did not choose Florida by accident. It was never just about the warm sunshine, the expanding league, or some ambitious sporting project. He chose Miami because it is the exact place where he wanted to write his final chapter. And we now know that this final chapter was quietly scripted by his own father. Jorge Messi wanted his son to finish his legendary career surrounded by his closest friends, the people who brought him joy on and off the pitch. Luis Suarez is already there. Busquets is there, Alba is there, and if Neymar actually keeps his promise, the final piece of the MSN trio will land in Florida to close the circle. Can you imagine that moment? Messi and Neymar sharing a pitch again after all the drama. Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain, the painful separations and the brutal injuries. The years passing by without mercy. Together again, but not in front of 100,000 screaming fans, not in a Champions League final under the gaze of the entire world, but under a quiet Florida sunset in Miami. The pressure gone, the trophies already won. Just playing the game because they want to, because they love each other. That was exactly what Jorge Messi dreamed of, his son being happy, not winning another Ballon d'Or, not breaking another record, just happy with the right people by his side. Neymar admits that this image constantly haunts him. Ever since that final call with Jorge, he keeps imagining the moment he steps onto the Inter Miami pitch, looks over, and sees Messi smiling back. He says that single moment would validate his entire career, every injury, every lonely night of rehab, all the physical pain. Tell me, is there anything more beautiful in this sport? Go ahead and discuss those 200 million euro transfers, or those insane 1 billion euro release clauses and 50 million euro yearly salaries. Go ahead, talk about Champions Leagues, World Cups, or records. Absolutely none of that really matters at all. Nothing beats the deeply painful image of a dying father calling his son's closest friends, begging them to watch over him once he is no longer here. Now think about Neymar and what this incredible revelation really tells us about him as a human being. Because Neymar has lived a career constantly plagued by scandals, wild parties, and brutal injuries that always seem to strike at the worst possible time, and those highly controversial transfers, followed by endless criticism that he wasted his pure talent, that he could have been so much greater if he just took care of himself and lived like a true professional. And yes, maybe some of that is actually true, but a guy who breaks down in tears when a father calls to beg him to watch over his boy. A guy who promises to honor that wish, and whose voice still cracks when talking about it months later, that is not a hollow soul, that is a man who feels, who truly cares. Strip away the massive global superstar lifestyle, and you find a real heart beating inside him, connecting him to all of us. Because at the end of the day, soccer is never about millions or complex tactics. It is about this, about real human beings, lifelong friendships that survive everything, and fathers who sacrifice everything for their children, about promises made from the deepest parts of the human soul, kept against all odds. And I want to make a crucial point here, that I believe is incredibly important. What Jorge Messi did by calling both Neymar and Ronaldinho was not just a simple act of deep fatherly love. It was also an act of raw emotional intelligence, because Jorge knew perfectly that once he was gone, Messi would plunge into a deeply dark and silent abyss, desperately needing something solid to hold on to. And that anchor could never be soccer, because soccer eventually ends. It absolutely had to be real people, true friends, and completely unbreakable human connections. And Jorge made sure those lifelines were completely reinforced before his time ran out. Think. It is as if Jorge Messi forged a powerful, protective human shield around his own son to guard him against the looming agony. A shield crafted from true, loyal brothers, rather than just casual, temporary teammates. The kind of armor only a father who understands his son to his core could ever design. And when Luis Suarez says that Messi never deserved to endure all this agonizing pain, he is completely, undeniably right. Yet at the same time, because of Jorge's final act, Leo is not walking through this darkness alone. He has Luis Suarez standing right beside him in Miami. He has Neymar's solemn promise to join him, and Ronaldinho's commitment to always be there. He has a safety net of real people who love him for who he is. And when life gets pitch black, that is absolutely everything. Let us pause for just a brief moment, because there is something major that I have not yet mentioned, something that gives this entire tragedy an even deeper, much more powerful dimension. It is the truly vital role of Antonella Roccuzzo, Messi's wife, standing by him through this process. According to key leaks from those closest to the family, Antonella has been Leo's absolute bedrock during these brutal days, holding him upright the exact second the cameras turn off and their front door finally shuts out the world. She is the one holding him tight when the crushing weight of grief becomes too heavy to bear, and, along with their 3 children, gently reminding Messi every single day that life moves forward, and there are still reasons to smile. Antonella and Messi have been together since they were kids. She loved Jorge deeply, viewing him almost as her own father. So this loss hits her just as hard. Jorge was not just a father-in-law, he was the absolute foundation of the entire family structure that keeps Leo Messi grounded as a real human being. Without that key piece, the whole structure shakes. But Antonella is right there, and Suarez is right there. Neymar is on his way, and Ronaldinho swore he would be there too. And all of that transforms Inter Miami into something infinitely larger than just another professional soccer club. It turns this club into a safe haven, a place where Messi can simply be Leo, surrounded by the exact people his father handpicked to walk alongside him through this final, emotional chapter of his historic career and his life. Don't you think this is truly one of the most heartbreakingly beautiful stories that the entire game of soccer has given us in recent years? It has absolutely everything. Loyalty, deep love, crushing grief, sacred vows, and a father's protective dream that outlives his own body. All with the greatest player to ever touch a soccer ball standing right in the absolute center of it all, not as some cold goal-scoring machine, but as a grieving son who desperately needs his own people. And that brings me to the single most important part of this whole story, the core truth that gives everything actual meaning. Because when you look past the sensational headlines, the statistics, and the legendary names, what this really teaches us is a universal truth, something that applies to every single one of us, whether we care about soccer or not. It is the fact that human connection matters far more than any trophy. At the end of his life, a father does not count his son's titles. He wonders if he'll be happy, if he will have people to love him when he is gone, and if the right crowd will always stand by his side. And that is exactly what his father Jorge Messi did. When he reached out to Neymar, it was not to talk about soccer, but to talk about love. And he certainly did not call Ronaldinho to talk about scoring goals. He called him to talk about presence, about truly showing up, and being real. And Neymar understood exactly what that meant. That is why he wept. He was not just crying because of the heavy request itself, but because of the sheer raw purity of what he was hearing. Imagine a dying father using his absolute last ounces of strength to protect his son by reaching out to the very people who surround him. That is a profound life lesson masquerading as a simple soccer anecdote. And now, we finally arrive at the moment I promised you, the absolute peak, the ultimate revelation. Because there is one final thing Neymar admitted at the end of his confession that brings this whole story full circle, and honestly, it left me completely cold. Neymar revealed that when he finally speaks with Messi, when he looks him straight in the eyes down in Miami, he will not mention soccer at all. He won't talk about goals or assist stats or how exactly they are going to share the pitch together. The very first thing he will do is embrace him, hug him tight, and whisper right into his ear. Your father called me. He asked me to come, and so here I am for him, for you, and for us. Those exact words are what Neymar has waiting. And the moment he admitted that, his voice cracked all over again. He knows that the very second Messi hears those words, he will truly understand that his father, even after leaving this world, is still looking out for him and remains deeply present. He is still working behind the scenes in the shadows just to make sure his son is truly happy. And I have to ask you, what more could we possibly ask of soccer? What more could we ask of life itself? Now I really need you to tell me something down in the comments. I truly want to hear your honest opinion on this. Do you believe Neymar will actually keep that promise? Does he still have the physical and emotional strength left to join Inter Miami and reunite with Messi? Or do you think his constant injuries and sheer exhaustion will stop him? Drop your thoughts below because I genuinely want to read what you think. And here is one more question, the one that is actually keeping me awake at night. Do you think Messi has any idea what his father did? Does Leo know that Jorge reached out to Neymar and Ronaldinho, asking them to stay close to him? Or has Neymar kept this a secret, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal it? Because if that is the case, it changes absolutely everything. If Messi is still in the dark, the exact moment Neymar whispers those words in his ear is going to be one of the most emotional scenes in the history of soccer. Tell me your thoughts.